Hey guys, and welcome to the Command Tower. We make EDH Deck Techs. If you enjoy these videos, make sure to like and subscribe. Also, check out our TCG player affiliate link in the description below, and if you use it, it helps it a lot. Today's deck is a Kodama and Alena deck. Kodama is a 6/6 with reach. Then, whenever another permanent enters the battlefield under your control, if it wasn't put on the battlefield with this ability, you can put a permanent card with a equal or lesser converted mana cost from your hand onto the battlefield, and then it has partner. Alena is a 4/3 with first strike, and it taps to add an amount of red mana equal to the greatest power among creatures you control that enter the battlefield this turn. And then it has partner. So, this deck is just going to have a ton of creatures in it. More than half the cards in the deck are going to be creatures. And we're only going to have a couple that aren't creatures. So basically, we're going to play Alena as soon as we can, and then we play Kodama, we tap Alena, and then we get something off of Kodama, and we're going to combo off from there. And since everything in our deck is a permanent, it's going to work really well with Kodama. Total price of this deck is $36.21. This is according to TCG Player, and does not include the price of basic lands. So let's get right into the deck. First off, we got Ramp. And since it's a creature deck, we're going to have a lot of creature ramp. Llanowar Elves, Elvish Mystic, and Finhorn Elves all do the same thing. They tap for green. Leafkin Druid taps for green, but then if you control 4 more creatures, you get 2 green instead, which you probably will have 4 more creatures. Beastcaller Savant has haste, and it taps for 1 mana of each color, but you can only spend that on creature spells, which won't be a problem again because we're going to have a lot of creatures. Zerta Druid taps for green. Whenever you tap it, it deals 1 damage to each opponent. Whisper of the Wilds taps for green, and then it also taps for 2 green, but only if you control a creature with power 4 or greater. And Elysian Carotid is kind of the same thing. Once again, we're going to have a lot of creatures, we'll probably have one with power 4 or greater. Arbor Elf, you just tap it, untap target forest. Burnished Heart, pay 3, sacrifice it, search your library for 2 basic land cards, put them on a battlefield tapped, shuffle your library. Farhaven Elf, when it enters the battlefield, you get a basic land card in the battlefield tapped. Sakura Tribe Elder, you can sacrifice them to get a basic land in the battlefield tapped. Wood Elves, when it enters the battlefield, search library forest card, put on the battlefield, shuffle your library. Springland Druid, when it enters the battlefield, you can sacrifice a land, and then search your library for 2 basic land cards, put the battlefield tapped, and shuffle your library. Grand Warlord Rada has haste. Whenever 1 or more creatures you control attack, you add that much mana any combination of red and or green mana. Until the end of the turn, you don't lose mana as steps and phases end. This is going to be really useful because we're always going to be attacking with creatures, no matter where we are in the game. So this is just going to get us some extra mana. Nikia of the Old Ways, you can't cast 9 creature spells, which shouldn't be a big deal because we only have a couple. Then, whenever you tap a land for mana, you add 1 mana of any type that land produced, and that's going to help us out a ton. Svella, Ice Shaper, you pay 3, tap it, create a colorless no artifact token named Icely Manolith with tap, add 1 mana of any color, so it's going to help us ramp. And if we have extra mana, we can pay 8, tap it, look at the top 4 cards in your library, and you can cast a spell from among them without paying its mana cost. Then put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Then Savage Ventmaw has flying. When it attacks, you add 3 red mana and 3 green mana. Until end of turn, you don't lose this mana as steps and phases end. Then we've got some creature benefits, because with this many creatures, we're going to have some cards that'll work well with them. Tuk Tuk Rebel Fort has Defender and Reach, and creatures you control have haste, so we're going to be putting a lot of creatures down with Kodama. We're going to give them haste, and we're going to attack out of nowhere. Kenra Charioteer has Trample, and other creatures you control have Trample, giving our creatures Trample. Fires of Yavimea, creatures you control have haste, you can sacrifice it, target creature gets +2/+2 till end of turn, which, that's an enchantment, it's not a creature, but giving our creatures haste is going to be really nice. Archetype of Endurance, creatures you control have Hexproof, and then creatures your opponent controls lose Hexproof and can't have or gain Hexproof. So, making all your creatures not being targeted is going to be so useful, since they won't be able to stop like any of our creatures. Frenzied Saddlebrute has haste, and then all creatures can attack your opponents and planeswalkers your opponents control as though those creatures had haste. So, it's giving your creatures haste, and it's going to incentivize your opponents to attack them. Ogre Battle Driver. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, that creature gains +2/+0 and gains haste on a turn. So once again, more haste, and it'll buff him up a bit. Pelt Collector. Whenever another creature you control enters the battlefield or dies, that creature's power is greater than Pelt Collector's, put a 1/1 counter on him. Then as long as he has 3 or more 1/1 counters on him, he is trampled. So he's only 1 mana, but he's going to get a lot bigger. In Search of Greatness. It's also an enchantment, and at the beginning of your upkeep, you can cast a permanent spell from your hand, converting mana costs equal to 1 plus the highest converted mana cost among other permanents you control, without paying its mana cost. Then if you don't, you scry 1. So it's going to cheat our really big creatures into play, and if we don't have any creatures to play or permanents, we're going to scry. Seeker of Skybreak has tap, untap target creature, so it's not going to really benefit our creatures. It's more to benefit our commander, Alena, because our commander, Alena, is going to tap for a lot of mana sometimes. And being able to untap her and just tap for more mana is just going to help us a lot. And then, Whisperwood Elemental. At the beginning of your end step, you manifest the top card of your library, so you put on the battlefield face down as a 2/2 creature. Then you can turn it up any time for its mana cost if it's a creature card. And you can sacrifice it until on a turn. Face up non-token creatures you control. Gain, whenever this creature dies, manifest the top card of your library. This is really useful because we're going to keep manifesting cards, and most of our cards are creatures so we can play them. But also, it kind of gives us protection from a board wipe, because if someone board wipes with this deck, we're going to take some heavy hits because it's all creatures. So, if we do that, we'll at least get some face-down creatures, and then we can play those face-down creatures. And then, Brutalizer Exarch. When you enter this battlefield, you choose one. Search the library for a creature card, reveal it, then shuffle your library, put that card on top of it, or put target non-creature permanent on the bottom of its owner's library. So it can get your creatures, or it can remove something. Then we just got some big creatures that I like, so I put them in the deck. Mullen Primordial has haste. When it enters the battlefield, for each opponent, gain control of the one target creature that player controls on a turn. Tap those creatures, they gain haste on a turn. It's gonna just steal some of your opponent's creatures and help you attack for a lot of damage. Captivating Crew. You can pay for, gain control of target creature opponent controls on a turn. Untap it, gains haste on a turn, and only do that as a sorcery. So with Alena, we're gonna tap her for a lot of mana. So with some of that extra mana, we can use that ability and steal some creatures. Hamletback Goliath. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield, you can put X1 counters on him, or X that creature's power. So we're going to play a lot of creatures, and it gets 1/1 counters when opponents play creatures, so it's going to get really big really fast. Champion of Ronus. You're going to exert him as he attacks. When you do, you can put a creature card from your hand onto the battlefield. So we can just cheat some of our best creature cards out. Dawnglade Regent. When it enters the battlefield, you become the monarch. As long as you're the monarch, permanents you control have hexproof. So, this is great, because we're giving all our permanents hexproof, but also, people won't want to attack us while we're the monarch, because we're going to have some of the biggest creatures on the board. And then Raise Forerunners. Vigilance, Trample, Haste. When it enters battlefield, other creatures you control get +2/+2 and gain Vigilance, Trample until a turn. So, if we have a lot of creatures, we could finish somebody off with this, which we should have a lot of creatures. Then we got some other creatures that can deal damage with other ways other than attacking. Rurik Thar, the Unbound, has Vigilance and Reach, and it attacks each combat of Able. But then, whenever a player casts a non-creature spell, Rurik Thar deals 6 damage to that player, which is so great for this deck. We're going to have so many creatures, and we're not really going to cast any non-creature spells. We may cast like 1, but we can probably take the 6 damage. But our opponents are going to have a lot of non-creature spells, so they're either going to have to kill him or take the damage. Scab Clan Berserker has haste, renown 1. Whenever an opponent casts a non-creature spell, if it's renowned, it deals 2 damage to that player, so it's kind of the same thing, but not as good. Emulation Shaman. Whenever an opponent activates an ability of an artifact, creature, or land that isn't a mana ability, he deals 1 damage to that player. And then you can pay 5 to give him +3/+3 and menace on a turn, so it can just deal some extra damage. Harsh Mentor is pretty similar. Whenever an opponent activates the ability of an artifact, creature, or land on the battlefield, if it is a mana ability, it deals 2 damage to that player. Charging Cinderhorn has haste, and at the beginning of each player's end step, if no creatures attack this turn, put a fury counter on him, then he deals damage equal to the number of fury counters on him to that player. The great thing about this is, if people are going to attack, they probably won't want to attack us, because like I've said before, we're going to have the biggest creatures on the board, hopefully, and then they'll be forced to either attack each other, or not attack and take damage anyway. Then we've got some card advantage. Most of it is going to benefit off of creatures. Soul of the Harvest, Trample. Whenever a non-token creature and its relevant under your control, you can draw a card. Beast Whisper. Whenever you cast a creature spell, you draw a card. Primordial Sage is the same thing. All those are great because we're going to have a ton of creature cards. Garruk's Pack Leader. Whenever another creature with power 3 or greater enters battlefield under your control, you can draw a card. Keeper of Fables. Whenever one or more non-human creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, draw a card. And most of our creatures are non-humans. Drum Hunter. At the beginning of your end step, if you control a creature with power 5 or greater, you can draw a card. It also taps for 1 generic. So we're going to get cards off of that. We're also going to ramp with it. Battle Mammoth. Trample. Whenever a permanent you control becomes the target of a spell or ability an opponent controls, you can draw a card. Also has Foretell for 4. This is great because we're having a lot of big scary creatures in this deck. So people are not going to like that, or they're going to try to kill them. So if they're going to kill them, we might as well get some cards off this. Garruk's Sword has Trample. You play with the top card of your library revealed. You can cast the top card of your library if it's a creature card. Like I said earlier, about half our deck is creature cards. So we're going to play a lot of cards with Garruk's Sword. Magus of the Wheel. You can pay 2, tap it, sacrifice it. Each player discards their hand and draws 7 cards, which is great if you run out of cards in your hand. Humble Defector. You can tap to draw 2 cards, and then target opponent gains control of it. Then you can activate this ability only during your turn. So, it's a pretty good card draw on a creature. Then you can also make a deal with somebody so that they give it back to you after. Duskwatch Recruiter. Pay 3. Look at the top 3 cards of your library. You can reveal a creature card from among them, put it to your hand, put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. And, at the beginning of each upkeep, no spells were cast last turn, you transform them. When transformed, creature spells you cast cause one to cast, and then at the beginning of each upkeep, if a player casts 2 more spells last turn, you transform them. This is great because we're going to like him either way. We're either going to get card advantage, or he's going to make our spells cheaper. So either way, it's pretty nice. Then we got some removal. And once again, it's going to be creature based. Thorn Mammoth is Trample. Whenever it, another creature enters the battlefield under control, it fights up to 1 target creature don't control. It's going to be super useful because we're going to be playing a lot of creatures, and it can either kill about like one of your opponent's big creatures per turn, or it can just kill a bunch of tiny creatures. Gruul Rage Beast is probably the better version of that. Whenever it, another creature, enters the battlefield under control, that creature fights target creature opponent controls. So we're going to keep playing creatures, and the creatures we play will keep fighting opponent's creatures. So we could kill off a lot of things in 1 turn. Lana, Casting Ranger. Reach. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you can pay 2. When you do, that creature deals damage equal to its power to target creature. So, if we really need to, we can pay 2, and kill one of our opponent's creatures. Manglehorn. When it enters the battlefield, destroy target artifact. Then artifacts your opponent's control enter the battlefield tapped. So, we're going to get removal, and also slow our opponents down. Reclamation Sage. When it enters the battlefield, you can destroy target artifact or enchantment. Acidic Slime. Death Touch. When it enters the battlefield, destroy target artifact, enchantment, or land. Kogla, Titan Ape. When it enters the battlefield, it fights up to 1 target creature you don't control. When it attacks, you destroy target artifact or enchantment defending player controls. Then you can also pay 2 and return target human you control to its owner's hand to give it indestructible, but we don't really have a lot of humans, so that probably won't happen. But it's going to get to fight something, and it's going to get to destroy artifacts and enchantments. Stalking Vengeance has haste, and whenever another creature you control dies, it deals damage equal to its power to target player. So basically, once we build up a board presence, if we get this out, people won't really want to board wipe because they could probably die from it. So then they'll have to kill this and then kill our other creatures. But it'll either do some damage or slow them down a bit. Warstorm Surge. When a creature enters the battlefield under your control, deals damage equal to its power to any target. So we're just going to be dealing constant damage to our opponent's creatures and maybe them too. And then Tyrant's Familiar. Flying and haste, and then it has Lieutenant. As long as you control your commander, it gets +2/+2 and has whenever it attacks, deals 7 damage to our creature defending player controls. So it should be able to kill almost anything they have. Then lastly, you've got lands. Gruul Guildgate enters battlefield tapped, taps your Gruul colors. Rugged Highland is the same thing, but you gain a life. Cassandra Refuge is the same thing as that. Gruul Turf enters battlefield tapped. When it enters battlefield, you return land you control to its owner's hand. Taps are both the Gruul colors. Spine Rock Knoll has Hideaway, and then it taps for red. But if you pay red, tap it, you can play the exiled card without paying its mana cost if an opponent was dealt 7 more damage this turn. So basically, if you deal 7 damage to an opponent, you can play a card for free. Mosswort Bridge is kind of the same thing. It's got Hideaway, it taps a green, and if you pay a green and tap it, you can play the exiled card without paying its mana cost. Creatures you control have total power 10 or greater. And this one's a lot easier to do, because we're going to have a lot of creatures. Skarg the Rage Pits taps your colors. If you pay both the Gruul colors, tap it, target creature gets +1/+1 and gains trample on a turn. Kazakh Wolfrun taps your colors, or if you pay X and both the Gruul colors, and tap it, target creature gets +X/+0 and gains trample on a turn. Bladed Woodland taps your colors, if you pay 4, tap it, sacrifice it, search your library for 2 basic land cards, put them on a battlefield tapped and shuffle your library. Rogue's Passage taps your colors, or you can pay 4 and tap it, target creature can't be blocked this turn, so we can make some of our biggest creatures unblockable. Looming Spires enters battlefield tapped. When it enters battlefield, target creature gets +1/+1 and gains first strike on a turn. You can tap for red. So, you can make one of your creatures better, and it's just taps for red. Myriad Landscape enters battlefield tapped, taps your colors. You can pay 2, tap it, sacrifice it. Search your library for 2 basic land cards that share land type. Put them on a battlefield tab and shuffle your library. Then we just got 13 forests and 12 mountains. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe. Have a great day.